first thing that we want to do is we want to get another base coat of green and make this all white. I'm going to go right to her waist. We're not going to go past her waist just yet. Now I'm going to have my lighter green and my white out. Actually, I don't think I need lighter green. I think I just need white. I'm going to add a little bit of white, just like the other one, to my paintbrush. And I think I might have a little bit too much, but that's okay. I'll just lightly do it. And I'm going to outline where I want the highlights to go. So I want the highlights to go up her neck a little bit. And I want it to go around her arm. Oh, and it's starting to really blend in nicely. I might not even have to go over that again. I'm going to go back and I'm going to blend this side. Remember, I'm going to go straight to the edge so it all blends in. Now I'm going to take the dark green and go over the center again, because I want the center of her back to be darker. I might add a little bit of white coming down. I'm going to add the white where I want her waist, or the side of her chest to go. Bit more white over here. Darker on this side. Now I might have to wait for this to fully dry for me to add the darker spots, because it might just keep blending. But this will give you at least an idea of where we're going with it. Thing we want to do with the bottom part, we want to fill that in. I might use a bigger paintbrush for this part. Fill it in with a dark green. Okay, I'm not sure why, but my camera stopped recording, so I'm going to go over this part again. So the bottom part, forget this because we're going to go over this again. you're going to fill all this in green. And then what you're going to do is, once it's wet, you're going to want to take some white lightly on your paintbrush, just like you did the very top. Dab it, and then you just want to lightly start putting white streaks, just like that. And that's going to give you the highlighting effect. And you want to keep going over it a little bit. If it's too dry, you're going to start seeing like these white spots and streaks. You don't want that. So you're going to add these, and if you have to, you can get a smaller paintbrush. Yeah, see how these white spots? You don't want that. Let's take green, let's go over them. Okay. So now once you finish that and you get all the white spots and white streaks, you want to have a little bit of a darker area on top so it looks like it's like almost highlighted. I'm actually going to take a little bit of white and I'm going to go in the corner. Okay, just like that. So now what we're going to do next is we're going to take our little paintbrush and we're going to take our yellow, and you're going to want to dip it in the yellow and dip it in the green. And you're going to do swirls from her waist. And that way it's looks like a really pretty belt. But you don't want it to be fully yellow, you want to have a little green in there. But you want it to blend. Just like that. So it looks like she has a really pretty belt. And then what you're going to do is you're going to go up top and you are going to do the same thing with her neck. And you want to have more yellow at the top and you want to have green at the bottom. I think I'm going to lighten this up a little bit, so I'm going to actually add a little bit of white. Okay, now I'm going to add some of the green and go from the bottom up. So it kind of blends in with the yellow. I'm going to keep pulling it up so it just blends it in. I don't like that there's that green line there, so I'm going to cover that up. Okay, so that is the bottom of Winifred Sanderson. So now that I'm closer to the top, I'm very close to covering up that one area. So what I'm going to do is I am going to take my white paintbrush and I'm going to paint over the moon again. Just be very careful where you're putting your paintbrush because you don't want to go into a place that you've already done and you don't want to mess up. So I'm actually going to give myself fresh paint because mine is getting a little gunky. This, I'm also going to go to the edges and I'm just going to clean them up as well so it looks like they're straight lines. All right, now I'm going to take my bigger paintbrush. I'm going to paint the rest of the moon and let that fully dry. Okay. Give myself a little bit more paint. So now that Winifred's dress is done, let's start working on the bottom of Mary's dress, which is pretty much the same thing, except I'm going to want to take a little bit of white just to fill in the green because the orange and red are going to have a hard time covering that up. So I'm going to turn this just a little bit just so I can get a better straight line. Okay, so that should be good. That should take it just a couple seconds to dry. So what I'm going to do is, in the meantime, I'm just going to take a little bit, I'm going to give myself new orange. I'm going to put new orange, new lighter red, new darker red, and I already have a little bit of the white. All right, so I'm going to take the orange. I'm going to go over this area. So this part is a little bit darker right here because the paint is coming up because I didn't wait for the white to dry enough. So I'm gonna have to go back later while that is dry. So I'm gonna work on this side in the meantime. I just put a little bit of white down and see if that covers it up. Okay, so I'm going to take the darker color and the lighter color. I'm going to dab it there, and I'm going to go from the top to bottom. This is a dress, so it's a little bit curved. So you want to do this and kind of go in a curved motion. And kind of leave those lines if you can. I'm going to take the lighter color and a little bit of orange. I'm going to go to the top. And I'm going to pull it down. I'm going to stay away from that one area that's still wet. I'm going to take the lighter and mix it in. Now I do have to go a little bit towards the bottom and do the same thing and have it coming up. Now I do like how this part came out, but I think I want to add a little bit more orange here. like having those orange streaks. I want to see if I can cover this section up. Add a little bit more orange. And I think I'm going to let that dry and go back to that later. Okay, so now that my painting is dry, I'm going to go back and I'm going to work on one of Fred Sanderson's hair. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just take my smaller paintbrush, not the very tiny one, but the smaller one. I'm going to dab a little bit of the orange paint, and I'm just going to add very small brush strokes, just like this, especially to the end. And because it's you're doing it very lightly, again, you're going to start seeing those little brush marks, and that's going to make it look like hair. So once I get like a lot of the edges done, I'm going to try to get some of the center. And remember, if you're working with her hair, go in the direction of where her hair is. So it's going to go up this way. So I'm going to take a little bit of my darker red. I'm going to do the same thing, and I'm just going to put them in different direction, or I'm sorry, put them in lightly, and just like this. I'm going to do it all the way down until we get to her hairline right here. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. I forgot to put the orange, but that's okay. We'll add that in now. I just want to go a little past where her hair is, just so I could have a little hair sticking up, so you could tell that's her hair. Now remember, if you're having trouble with this and it's getting too globby, it might just be because your paint is a little too wet or you're pushing a little too hard. So try to go a little bit lighter with it. If you're still having trouble, then let it fully dry, because it might just be because it's too wet. And now I want to go back and I'm going to take a little bit of my dark brown. I'm just going to add a couple highlights in there of the brown. I don't want it to be too brown because I like her hair being that orangey red color. I'm just going to add a couple. I'm gonna add a little bit orange just to cover up some of that brown so it's not too much. Okay, and I might go back a little bit later and add a little bit more. I'm not positive, so I'll just put it to the side for now and we'll start working on Sarah. Okay, so Sarah, the first thing that we want to work on is her shoulders where it's the pink. So we're going to add a little bit of pink and a little bit of white. And just a reminder, the reason we are doing this part is just because we want to do what's behind something first and then go to the next layer, which is the top. So this will be underneath her hair and it kind of goes underneath this part of her dress. So I forgot to put a little bit of white. Okay, so I'm going to cover this all with pink, and I'm going to go back and I'm going to pay a little bit more attention to my lines because I didn't cover my lines very well before. Oh, some of my red is popping through. Okay, so now I'm just going to take a little bit of that white, and where my highlights are, I'm going to highlight the top of her shoulder. So I'm going to put white right here, and you see how it's wet underneath, how it's really starting to blend. That's what you're looking for. And then right where the lines are, you want to keep pulling it so it blends in a little bit more, just like that. See if I can pull this down so you can see it a little bit better. And then I'm going to want to do a white line towards the side. So there's a highlight on the left side. I'm going to put a little bit of a white underneath here because we got to have a separation between the bottom of her arm and underneath. And we're going to put a little bit of a white line here to show the difference between her arm and her back. Just like that. Let me add another white line. Okay, so some of this is going to get covered with her hair. So now we're going to go on to her dress part. So this is where we're going to add some purple. And we're going to cover the top. white to the left side, and just like I did with Mary, I'm gonna have it curve just a little bit. Here along the side, just to give that a little bit of a highlight. Purple on this side, let it pull in a little bit so it looks like it's rounded. If you're having trouble blending and it's not blending correctly and you're getting those like dry dots, try adding a little bit more paint. Okay, so now this part is going to be on top. And this part's going to be on bottom. So we're going to work on this part first. So I'm going to take my purple. I think I'm going to switch to my bigger paintbrush. I'm going to cover all of this in purple. Take pink and I'm going to do the highlights, and I'm just going to go back and forth just like this, just adding the highlights in. And if you put too much paint, it's okay, just keep dragging it back and forth lightly and you'll start seeing those streaks. If it becomes too pink, that's totally okay too, because you can always add in more purple later, or add in purple right now if you want. Alright. So I'm going to keep this a little bit more purple because I want to have this more pink on top. So I'm going to take a lot more pink and I'm going to start from the top. I might need my little paintbrush for this, I'm not sure. And I'm going to swoop it down. And I'm going to, see, I need a little bit more purple up here. Okay. Now I might just add a little bit of white to this in some areas just to give it a little bit of a highlight. But very, very little. And I'm going to have it curve a little bit with the shape of the dress. I think I'm going to add a little bit up here too. Just a little bit. Okay. Now, Mary also has a little bit of like a wavy part of her dress right here. So I'm going to add that right now. I'm going to use my really tiny paintbrush. And I'm going to do white first since we're going over green because the pink will never cover it. Now be careful, before you put your hand down, remember that this is wet. If you do want to wait until this is fully dry so you don't make the mistake of putting your hand on it, you can. So if you want, pause it right now and then turn it back on when your paint is dry. But if you're ready to go, you can continue going with me. So I'm going to have the dress part come out this way. I'm going to have it curve up at the bottom. Now you can have these swirls go any which way you want. This is just how I'm going to add it. Okay, so now I'm gonna give myself a little bit more pink. I think I'm gonna add a little bit of a darker pink. And I'm gonna make this dark pink. Okay, I'm gonna use my bigger paintbrush to fill in. I'm going to add a little bit of a white, and I'm going to put a little bit of the white on top of all of mine and let it blend in. I don't want to have it just a straight line of white, so make sure that the paint underneath is still a little bit wet, or you could always add a little bit more pink to it to blend it. Okay. Okay, so now we're going to do the last step, which is Sarah's hair, or one of the last steps. And I'm going to take the yellow, I'm going to dip it on my paintbrush, and the medium-sized paintbrush. And I'm going to dip it also in the white, and I'm going to start from the top, and I'm going to come down. And just like every other step that we've been doing, I'm just putting the base coat of color. And I'm going to add streaks. We're gonna have her hair swooping down over here over her shoulders. Maybe a little bit more. I'm going to do it again on the side here. And I'm going to add it over here and at the very end. Now I think I might just add a couple extra hair swoops because I'm not exactly a fan of how the bottom part of her hair came out. And that's the nice thing about painting. If there's a part that you're just not entirely happy with and you can hide it with something else, you can absolutely do that. I'm going to take my little paintbrush and add just the pointier end. And now I'm going to just take white and I'm going to go about this again, lightly adding it. And try to add the white streaks as much as I can. I'm going to take my little paintbrush and oops, got a little purple on it. And add the white here again. And add a little bit of yellow. I'm going to add a couple more streaks down the center of her hair. I might make it look like her hair is curved over just a little bit here. I'm really liking the way her hair is coming out now. And I like that it covered that one area that I wasn't a gigantic fan of. Now I am going to go back to right here on her dress because I feel like there needs to be a little bit more color. So I'm just going to add a couple white highlights. I'm going to take my pink and purple and then go over it. and let that dry. Now once that is dry, that's when I'm going to look back and make sure that everything I did, I like, and add anything that I might need. There's one mistake that I just saw. Okay. I just need to add a little bit more yellow right at the tip of her hair. Okay, so this is our painting so far, and I'm really happy with the way it turned out. And don't forget, the last thing that we need to do is you always need to add a signature. So I'm gonna add mine in pink at the very bottom. I'm gonna add, I always do mine in the bottom right-hand corner, and I'm gonna sign my name. All right, well, thank you everybody for joining our class. I hope you really enjoyed it. This one was a lot of fun to do, and we'll be coming out with more soon. Thank you guys, bye.